Hi, I'm David.
Hi, I'm Jelena.
And this is Connie.
Mr. Connie.
Mr. Connie, sorry. Joining us for at least the beginning of our tutorial on USTRASANA, which means small dog pose. Right?
Sure. I'd be up for that.
It means camel.
Camel.
Camel pose, yeah.
But Mr. Connie is a little rescue. We think he's a Chihuahua something. He acts like it. And if you want to get an animal for yourself, always consider rescues. There's so many animals that need love.
All right. Now we'll talk about yoga. Poses.
Yeah,
Poses, because that was yoga too, right?
That's yoga, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Connie. But before we do that, subscribe. Tell us if you like Chihuahuas. And like, what else?
Maybe share.
Yeah, share with your friends, your pets. Okay, so USTRASANA shows up in in intermediate series in Ashtanga Yoga. Second series, it's part of that like nice little backbending sequence that we have. It's kind of like when stuff starts to fall apart. USTRASANA is okay. I think
after it.
USTRASANA is pretty accessible for everybody. But it's right before some terrible stuff.
Then comes Lagu and Kapo, and that's when it...
Do you want to see a Lagu tutorial and a Kapo? Then let us know if you do. We can do those too. We're trying to keep it fairly wide and accessible stuff, but if there's enough interest, we'll make one of those.
And again, USTRASANA is one of those poses that's quite common in other schools of yoga. So everything we tell you today and all the cues and tips we give, it's very specific to the way we do USTRASANA in Ashtanga Yoga. Because of course, that's the only thing we know. It's what we practice, it's what we teach.
Yeah, and even that, I mean, we'll describe the vinyasa and the conditions of the pose, like the traditional coordinates that determine, the correctness of the pose. But we're also going to talk a little bit about the work, like alignment and ways to approach that. And that's not even part of Ashtanga per se. Ashtanga doesn't really talk about postures in that sense. It gives you coordinates. And then how you achieve those coordinates, how you meet the conditions, is kind of individually met, how is individually decided. So you'll get different teachers telling you the same pose different ways, as I'm sure you'll experience now. I say this now particularly because we're going to do a backbend. USTRASANA is a backbend, and there's a lot of different ways to try backbending. And so it's up to you to figure out which one works for you.
Yeah, I would just say when you're trying, just stick with everything that one person is giving you as cues and try it all together. Don't try to pick and choose what you think should work together and it feels good, because then you're kind of starting to create a path that no one has maybe traveled down. Yeah. These paths maybe have been tested. So try it as a package and then feel it out. See how it feels and how your body responds. And then from there, make a choice.
Okay. All right. So, Connie, you're out of here.
He can be here if you want.
No, he'll leave as soon as he's not on your lap.
Sit. Connie, sit. No.
Okay. Do you want to do the vinyasa? Okay. Connie will make it difficult. So from downward dog, sapta. Oh, bye, Connie. Inhale. Come onto your shins into this starting position. Exhale here. So we have this thing with the vinyasa count where there's no count, there's no cue, so there's no action, there's nothing to do. You just exhale. And then inhale, ashtau, chest up. And same vinyasa, still ashtau. Exhale, go back and catch your heels. Yep. Good. And gaze towards your nose. Let your head come back. Breathe here for 5 breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nava, inhale, catch the waist, come back up. Exhale here. Dasha, inhale, hands down, lift up. Ekadasha, exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Dwadasha, inhale, Trayodasha, exhale. Okay, let's talk coordinates. Ready? Okay, Sapta, inhale, come onto your knees. So this is the prep position. This and the next two poses all start like this on Sapta. So we mentioned them, Lagha-Vajrasana, Kapotasana. So we go from downward dog straight into the setup, knees and feet about hip width apart. Don't go too wide, don't go too narrow, about hip width, with the fronts of your thighs facing forward. Hands catch the waist, and then that's it, nothing really happens. And then on your inhale, Ashtanga, there's a vinyasa here, you start to arch. So you're gonna press down through the tops of the feet, keep the legs nice and strong, and start to lift your chest up. And on the exhale, you try to hold that shape. Use the strength of your legs to lower yourself back enough that you can catch the feet. The fingers point towards the toes, and the heels of the palms are over the heels of the feet. Try not to rest on your hands, so don't sink down, even though that's nice and relaxing. Push down through your feet so that your legs continue to support you. And if you wanted, you could probably lift your hands there. See, they're not doing the work, the legs are. Good. Keep the bum fairly relaxed and keep focusing on lifting through the ribs. Good. And then inhale, come all the way back up. Okay. So here's the thing. That's all fairly standard, right? Here's the thing that could be different than the way you're practicing it, I don't know, is I would encourage you to get your legs to do most of the work of extending your hips in this posture. This isn't, in terms of Ashtanga, this isn't a crazy deep back bend or anything like that. They get worse, much worse, right? But, so you're not gonna probably be that challenged in your back if you squeeze your bum or relax your bum. Mm-hmm. Would you say?
If I overdo it, then I start to feel it in my lower back.
If you squeeze, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else? Why do we squeeze our bum? Because our bum extends our hips. It's the primary hip extensor. It's so strong, the glutes, and they press the hips forward. And you can see, in addition to the extension of the spine, oh, hi, Connie, he's back. In addition, he wants to know, in addition to the extension of the spine, that's like the back bend, we've also got extension through the hips. We're extending through the front of the hips, opening them forward like that. So we're curving the back, and then we're also bringing the hips forward. Those are two different actions, right? Ideally, then when we're bringing the hips forward, we're not going to just squeeze the bum to extend the hips. Can you watch this with Jelena's feet here? When she squeezes the bum, the feet kind of lift away from the floor, the pinky toes lift away from the floor, and the heels are kind of drawn towards each other. She's exaggerating it for you. But it's like she's losing the grounding through the feet because the glutes take over, the legs aren't working as hard. And it's not that you don't want your glutes to do nothing necessarily, but I think it's more useful if the legs do the majority of the work of hip extension. So besides your glutes, what else extends your hips? Your hamstrings. So if you can really engage your hamstrings when you're doing this posture, then you can use your legs to keep the hips forward.
I was going to say, squeezing the glutes also starts to hurt my knees because you start to kind of roll. You start to, like, most of the body weight starts to be on a funny place on the knees, and it hurts them quite a bit when I do that. Versus when the glutes are more relaxed and my legs are in that more of a neutral position, then the weight is distributed differently. So that's another.
Yeah, like because your feet push down through the floor when you use your hamstrings more.
And this brings kind of so much like resistance into the knees.
Yeah,
because they want to slide out, but they can because they're stuck on the mat, and it's so anyway. Really, your quadriceps are working. It's not just your hamstrings. You'll feel your quadriceps work quite a lot, as well, in conjunction, right, with the hamstrings. So watch again here. Jelena, make sure too that your feet are right behind your knees, or pretty much right behind your knees, that they're not
going too wide, that's just making life hard, right? And then you'll also have to open up your hands wider than they need to go. So here's a trick to getting the legs to do the majority of the work. Before you go back, so on Ashtanga, on that inhale, let yourself come into an anterior tilt in the hips so that the bum, it comes back. You're not tucking under on Ashtanga. You're actually arching your back, inhale, and then focus on pressing down through the feet and bringing the thighs forward so that your shoulders come back and your weight stays centered between your legs. And then you can access the strength of the legs to lift through the back ribs, to lift the back ribs away from the floor. Also, draw your belly in. Watch what happens if you release your belly. You see that sink? So pull the belly in, collect the pelvic floor together, and then hold yourself here as you reach your arms back. And then your legs can control if you need to come further back to catch. So all of this time, Jelena is still using the legs, and her bum is soft, but the legs are strong. Good. And then come back up. Yeah, you get it? The other thing I'll mention, just as an aside, another way that we see collapse happen is when people externally rotate to catch. It's difficult because of the hand position, but if you can, when you're holding, try not to roll your arms out, externally rotate and hyperextend the elbows. See if you can keep the elbows just a little soft and so that your arms stay just slightly inwardly rotated, and then lift through your chest.
The way I feel that if another cue for the same thing is you feel that the scapulas on your back aren't squeezing together, but they're kind of coming apart. And that creates so much space, and it almost lifts your chest and pushes some of the back bend into your upper back, which is really difficult. And that part of our back isn't as flexible as our lower back.
Yeah.
So pushing it there by keeping the scapulas nice and wide changes also the way you experience this pose.
It's a lot like just standing in samasthiti, it's like a very mild downward rotation with the scapula, and you feel them very slightly depressed down your back instead of retracted together like that with the external rotation. See, because we still do want to get that arch in the back that the retraction kind of also does, but we don't need to make it happen from the scapula. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, or not just from the scapula. The scapula are still slightly coming together.
Or if you're feeling like a lot of pull here.
Yeah. You know what I'm noticing too right now is that if I you can do it with me, if I just externally rotate, then my scapula come together, but they don't pull down.
Yeah, they don't.
But if I internally rotate first so that they come away from each other, and then extend my shoulders by pulling my upper arms, then I can get that retraction to happen, but I also feel the downward rotation, the bottom wing of the scapula coming down and forward.
Yeah, pushing into the ribs.
And then I use that to leverage the back ribs up. Blah, 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 right?
It's complicated because of the position of our hands.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be going over your feet and with your fingertips pointing back. But then, again, we've encountered this before where your arm has few joints, so you can kind of move around, like I can do external rotation with my upper arm, but then I can still turn my palm facing down, which is something we've done for Parshvakonasana, for instance. And so it's the same here. You're kind of doing two different things a little bit.
We actually have a tutorial on using your arms and shoulders in yoga poses, and we'll link to it here, okay? So you can watch that as well. And I think we talk even about USTRASANA, probably.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. I hope you found it helpful.
Let us know.
Let us know. Okay. Bye.